Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're going to talk about Fables, Volume 5, The Mean Seasons. Hey everybody, and welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent, and today we're going to be talking about Fables, Volume 5, The Mean Seasons. This is the 5th edition in our long running so far Fables review segment. We're going to go through all of the individual trades one by one and talk about them together in celebration of the 20th anniversary of Fables. We have a new volume coming out later this year. I don't know if it's going to be 6 or 12 issues, but I believe it's going to make up volume 23 or whatever after the finale. So when that gets collected and distributed or whatever, we'll review that too. But in this case, The Mean Season. So after the phenomenal Volume 4, which was March of the Wooden Soldiers, we kind of have this like slower storyline here. And The Mean Seasons isn't a storyline per se as much as it is like a passage of time. You see writer Bill Willingham moving time forward here to kind of advance our storyline along a little bit faster, get our more characters involved, and just lay the groundwork for things that he's going to come up later in the run. Snow White was pregnant. She has her babies in this one. We get to see them grow into their first year. So we're really moving the storyline. Like I feel like at some points, Fables liked to keep the timeline of the story in step with the time that it took for the books to come out. So like, if something happened it took you 6 issues to read that event, by the time you jumped into the next one, it was like 6 months later, and now you're at the next large event in Fabletown. So I think we're kind of doing the same thing here. We had that massive March of the Wooden Soldiers storyline, and now we're moving time forwards a little bit to kind of catch up to where things should be. So we're skipping a lot of events, a lot of mundane events. Kids growing up, their first steps, their first flight, that kind of stuff. We're seeing bits and pieces of it here to kind of like capture on it, but we're not really like focusing in on every little bit of these kids growing up. It's the same thing that Saga is doing with Hazel, where you would jump from Hazel being a baby into a toddler into a little girl, and now with the second, not volume, but the second half of that storyline, she's a lot older. It's the same thing kind of happening here, but just this book did it first, right? You also got Mark Buckingham doing his thing that I've been talking about the last 4 videos, where he's doing these little side panels, right? So this is going to become something you're going to see in probably every Fables volume after this one, where he will draw like one side panel and flip it, and repeat it page after page after page, just to give you kind of more context of where they are in the storyline, right? Where they are in the setting and that kind of stuff. Like this scene is taking place between not Boy Blue. This is Prince Charming. He's the new mayor of Fabletown in this volume, and he's talking with Beast. And so they're down in the Fabletown like dungeon headquarters. You've seen Snow White here before, but you just have this like little placeholder banner on the side of the page to kind of give you that setting and to illustrate more of the world around them, so that you don't lose focus of where they're at. And that's not to say that he needs to do that. I mean, Mark Buckingham is doing like detailed backgrounds in most of these shots. So it's not like other artists where they'll just do like a talking head, set these, establish where they're at and do talking heads the rest of the page. You're getting backgrounds in every single panel. It's just another added little thing. Another thing he's doing at the top and bottom of these is his little motifs. Like when they're transitioning from power, you had like 4 heads on top with Snow White and Bigby teaching Beast and his wife and Belle to do things, and now as they're transitioning over, you get less of their heads and more of Beast and Belle's heads, that kind of stuff, to show that like they're the new people in charge. And you got the PC for the mayor, Prince Charming, all that stuff. The Mean Seasons, that storyline in here is a couple of issues. That's not the strongest thing in this book. I mean, I enjoyed reading it. I remember Mark Buckingham, to see the panel borders introduced here that I've talked about for so long, and everybody's been like, Brent, what the fuck are you talking about? To see them finally show up was a gas. Had pleasure in that, because I was like, oh, I know I wasn't crazy. I finally get to talk about it this episode. But the real strength in this trade paperback is the first 2 stories here. Um, the first issue is like we're introduced to Cinderella, and we're introduced to what she does for Fabletown. She's kind of a spy and works out in the Mundy world for Bigby Wolf, right? And kind of traps people. And in fact, she traps, Ichabod Crane into confessing. I don't know if this is entrapment per se, but she kind of convinces him she works for the adversary over in the homelands, and then kind of gets him to go along with her adversary plan, and then makes him sign something, and then he's off to jail. It was kind of unfair. I was like, he's just attracted to you sexually and wants to get in your pants. So I'm willing to bet he would have signed anything you put in front of him in order to do that. The fact that they just kind of threw him away after that was kind of a little weird, but just goes to show the lengths that these characters will go to in order to, maintain their grip on power or their home, their new home. Maybe it's them fearing that people will betray them, so they're trying to get them to, entrap them to do that first before they actually get a chance to betray them, that kind of thing. Maybe we'll get it resolved in later volumes, but to see Cinderella here is just she's not a damsel in distress. She's fully capable, fully in control of herself and her surroundings, and is so powerful that she can get you to do whatever she wants, kind of thing. That was really cool. The other story was this kind of flashback story to Bigby Wolf here in a World War II adventure. And it starts off with this cute little thing of like he's visiting somebody in New York City, and he's got a scrapbook, and he's like, "Here, Bigby, I never told anybody our story, but I did write it down, and I want you to have it." So we're kind of getting told the story as Bigby is like reading through the scrapbook. And then it ends, we have interactions with Nazis, with monsters, which kind of monster I'm not going to tell you, but it ends with him going back to, the Fabletown headquarters and being like, "Hey, file this book with all the others, but you should read it. I think you're going to get a kick out of it." So it's a cool little like hidden gem of a story that's going to live, in Bigby's heart, but it's also in the scrapbook, lost somewhere in the archives of Fabletown. I thought that was kind of cool. So all in all, not a great trade paperback. It is fun to see everything like move forward and to see all the different babies that Snow White has, these wolf cubs. I thought it was a little weird too. They all of a sudden are like, "Well, hey, Bigby, remember how you can't go to the farm because you were exiled from the farm, but your kids look like wolves, so they have to go to the farm. So you're not going to be able to be a father to your kids because they're going to live on the farm." And I was like, that seems like really fucking arbitrary at this point, but I get it. He's the big bad wolf. He's eating some people that live at that farm. They're really pissed at him, and they don't want him there anywhere whatsoever, at all. So it makes sense, and it kind of doesn't make sense. Like, as a dad, I was like, "Oh, that sucks." Like, to have your kids be born, and you have like, a few moments with them before they're shipped off upstate. That's kind of rough. So Bigby kind of disappears from the storyline here after that because he's upset, and understandably so. But I think we're going to find him. The other thing here, you get there's 6 kids that are all flying around by their first birthday, and then you find out there's a 7th. You also meet Bigby's dad, who's I don't know if he's the North Wind. His name is, oh crap, what's his name? I think he's like a Wind or something like that. But anyway, he's like a human dude, and he's talking about teaching his kids how to fly. So he's trying to be a good grandpa, but at the same time, poor Bigby's just left out there not to be a dad. So you have the 7th kid introduced. He's a Zephyr. It's kind of this like weird spirit thing and Snow White tells him at the end to go find your father, and he can help you do whatever it is they think they're going to do. So I do remember that being a kind of interesting thing reading about in future volumes. So I'm excited to reread that and see where it goes. Again, I've only read the first half of this entire series, so a lot of this is like rereading again for me for the second time, I believe. And then in the future volumes, I've never read them before, and you'll get my honest reaction to what happens there. So this is cool. So I don't think I've ever mentioned this on one of these reviews, but it's always tough to do a thumbnail for these because James Jean at least does the covers for the first almost half of the series. And I do remember reading at the time, and now that I'm like looking at these again, it's coming back to me that all the trade paperback covers are a new cover. Like, he did the single issue covers for every issue, and they're very involved. You see them throughout the stories here. They're gorgeous. They're beautiful. but he also does a new cover for every volume. And so this is like the first one, not the first one, but this is one of the ones he did. So every time you get a new volume of Fables, you're like, well, what cover do I use? Do I use the trade paperback cover, one of the more issue covers? Like any other comic collection, usually they slap on a cover from the run. And this is like, handcrafted every cover. So it is a gorgeous, gorgeous thing to have these like trade paperback collections. And you can tell like on the back, he's left room for all the print and the copy and all that stuff. Really, really cool to reread these trade paperbacks and look at the artwork that goes into just the covers here. So I don't want to end this review without mentioning that at least once throughout this series. So anyway, there you have it. The Mean Season's kind of a slower run or collection here for Fables, but it's a fun story and a good read nonetheless. So if you liked March of the Wooden Soldiers, keep going. It only gets better from here if I do remember correctly. So I'm excited to read the next volume in the series. So let me know down below what you guys are thinking of Fables right now. And we'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.